Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hey, welcome back. It is your friend Cesar Espino. Thank you for being here at another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. And I'm so happy to be here today. I have a special guest. His name is Ryan Block. Hey, Ryan, how are you?
Cesar, I'm doing well, my man. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you. Before we dive in, I want to get the listeners to get to know you a little bit. So I'm going to give them a little bit of your background, and then we can dive into the interview. So Ryan is a guy of a mission to do cool things with cool people and add much value as possible along the way. Over his span of nearly 20 years career, Ryan has been involved in a range of projects and jobs that span everything from door-to-door sales to investing and consulting. His experiences, the people he worked with, and the knowledge he's gained gave him confidence to finally pursue his dream. This is when Independent Ear, a company all of his own, launched. And talking about independent company, that was actually a dream you were pursuing for quite some time. And so before we dive into that, I want to first talk about where did you come from? What is your backstory in terms of growing up as a kid? And give us something of that.
Oh, that's the fun. That's the fun part, right? I growing up, it was. I don't want to say it was as normal as a Midwestern life could be, right? I grew up in a church. It was the same church my grandparents went to, so everything was there. It was normal. And then my mom and dad divorced when I was 13. And my younger brother at the time was 11. And in that process, in research afterwards, like in what happens when a traumatic event occurs between the ages of 11 and 13 in adolescent boys, one of two things happens. They remember everything or they forget everything that happened before that moment. And my younger brother remembered everything. I remembered nothing. So most memories that I have from that period of time are all secondhand memories. Somebody's like, oh, you did this thing with us. This was part of thing that we all like. It was never really my own, And other than that, my growing up was normal. High school was high school. I was never the jock or the rock star. I was kind of just the kid that wanted to get out of school, right? So never really did anything that forced me to stay in school longer.
Yeah,
like I know some people do. And then a lot of it changed when my grandmother died. So granted, parents' divorce was tragic, but that loss was the loss that was like, okay, everything's different now. Because she actually lost a over 2-decade long battle with breast cancer.
Oh man, yeah.
And so that's where I got my stubbornness from. She fought this thing for 2 decades, and
yeah.
But from 13 to 17, 18, that time frame, I was. Looking back now, I know I was depressed. I was going through what most adolescent boys do, but for me somehow it was amplified, or at least I thought it was, and ended up attempting to take my own life 4 times.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that. And in terms of what got you there, why do you believe that you were in this depressed stage, or what led to that? Is it the fact that your parents divorced, or what was it going through your mind? Because I believe that when we look at things like this, especially we talked about you having 4 failed suicide attempts. Somebody listening to this might be relating to your story and might say, you know what, you were able to overcome that, and definitely that's a huge thing that you overcame, those 4 failed suicide attempts. Yet what got you there? What is it that put you in that state of mind that you said, you know what, enough of this, I don't want to be here, I need to just take my life?
I mean, it's nothing unique, really. I mean, doing all the work that I do in mental health now, it's like looking back on it, it was like, okay, nothing about what that was unique, but it felt unique in the moment, right? I felt alone because I didn't fit the mold of the rest of the family, right? I knew I was always a little bit different. I knew I was the artist. I was the troubled punk youth,
Yeah.
and then moments occurred in the church that I was in, where basically because of some of the changes that I went through, as far as starting to dress differently, styling my hair differently, that the church started to judge me. So I'm like, well, you know what? I should have asked this before we went live, or before we started recording. Can we curse on the show?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Because you never know. And then you're that one guy that cursed on that show that one time,
Yeah.
and now the show forever has that explicit tag on it.
Yeah.
I'm in the podcasting space. I know it all too well.
Right.
But yeah, so it was a bunch of fuckery, in my opinion. Like you're going to chastise me when religion basically says you accept regardless of anything, right?
Right.
And so obviously I left the church. It was feeling alone, a lot of it. I mean, it was all coming back to the fact that I was alone, not worth it.
Yeah.
There was nothing else there,
Right. And I can see, like even with different groups of people, right? Where they say, or they give the belief that they're gonna accept you the way you are, bring all your troubles, no judgment, we're here to help you, whatever the case may be. And in that case, like the church or other groups that I've seen, and at the end of the day, they do have that judgment. They do have something to say.
Because they're human.
Right, exactly. And part of that too is that not realizing that when they do those judgments, or they start separating the different elements on what's going on with somebody, it can also affect people, right? Because we're all human. We're looking for that community, that the group of people that can help us, that can guide us. And when we're being judged instead of being helped, it can take us in a different route. And from that perspective, many different things can happen. So obviously that was I would say a good move to be able to move away from that, because otherwise I can only imagine how much more you're gonna get. It's kind of like and obviously you know this very good. It's kind of like when you go to school and they say don't get a fail, don't get a D, don't get a bad grades. It's really bad.
For who?
Exactly right. For exactly for who? Because at the end of the day, you're like, okay, well, if I'm not able to fail, how am I going to learn, right? And they judge you on that. And I'm sure you know this now as an entrepreneur, as what you're doing. I've learned this, that failing is inevitable. It's gonna happen, and you have to learn from that. You have to extract the lessons and the education from that to continue to grow. Without failing, you're not gonna be able to succeed. If you're not failing enough, I think that you're not doing the right things, if that makes sense.
Right, because how else do you learn?
Right.
And so fast forward a little while, I ended up in a career as an investment advisor for several years. And there was several things that I learned that were like very like resonant and still carry with me to this day. Excuse me. Number one is 7 out of every 10 years are down years. But yeah, we only remember the 3 great up ones. right? And secondly, that you can't care more about somebody else's future than they do, right? So meaning you can't expect people to care for you if you're not caring for yourself.
Right. Yeah. No, that's actually a good point. I didn't even see it that way. 7 out of 10 years are down years. That's now that I reflect back on that, that's actually kind of true. You know,
Right.
I can see that in my own journey too. Wow, that's amazing. So let me ask you, like, your first attempt of suicide. What was going on through your mind that you're like, that's it, I'm gonna do this, and what was that attempt that luckily you failed, because that's definitely not something that anybody should be doing.
I failed because I quit.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Right. It was for several years too, like in throughout that process, I tended to be a bit of a cutter. And sorry, trigger warning for everybody who is going through that, or that this is a subject matter for them. Bit of trigger warning. I mean, it was nothing more so than just, I mean, looking back on it now, just petty adolescent stuff. Like, okay, I get feeling alone. Definitely in a depressive state post parental divorce, because, you know, shifting back and forth.
Yeah.
I was never in school, I was never like the popular person. I was always kind of like the nerd that kind of just nobody paid attention to. Mm-hmm. And then of course I had friends who either moved away or we just lost touch. I mean, all of the stressors of adolescent youth, but for somehow in me, I felt that it was amplified.
Yeah. So what did you do to overcome some of those things besides not following through? How do you overcome stress? How do you overcome the feeling of being lonely? How do you overcome those things in your mind?
I don't think you actually ever overcome them. I just think you move through them. Right? Because there are moments even right now, like we're in the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, I'm surrounded by my entire family. I feel very alone a lot of times because like I'm a social creature. Like I go out to the coffee shop and I go get my hair cut, or like I travel. I had a lot of speaking opportunities and various things scheduled for this year that obviously now all kind of changed. I like the ability to do it at choice, not like without choice. You know what I mean? So I mean, that for me, that's what it was, is I was just feeling like I was there by myself.
Yeah. And you know, I heard from a couple of the people, especially right now with the COVID-19 and, you know, the fact that you have to stay home. People that have gone through depression in the past, or people that are not so used to being isolated, right? They're more social type of people. This has really hit them pretty hard. And sometimes, you know, it's just a matter of just giving calling somebody and having a conversation, or just checking in with people. What is it?
Cesar's podcast like that?
Yeah,
that
like
helps.
Jump on this podcast for sure, you know, and let's interview you or listen to this, right? What are some things that you recommend based on that, you know, for the people that might be going through that?
I mean, the biggest thing that I can say, and I've said this to a few friends lately, and it's helped put stuff into perspective for them. On a human level, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we can talk about business in a little bit, right. But on a human level, do something for yourself every day just for you. Like if that's get up and stretch, cool. If that's go run 10 miles, cool. If that's sit on your couch and do absolutely nothing, awesome. If that's spend 20 hours working and 4 hours sleeping and not eat, well, I recommend eating, but like,
yeah.
Unless, of course, you're on a fast, but then do that. But don't let what other people are telling you that you should do or make you feel judged for like going and sitting on the couch or not working as hard as you were before.
Right.
Like, I that's been the biggest thing is like I just give myself space.
And within that space, something that you enjoy, like for yourself too, obviously, right?
Like I'm getting ready to grill later this afternoon. Like I've got it all like planned out in my head.
Yeah.
I love cooking. I swear if I wasn't in music and media, I would be in food.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. Too bad you're on the other side of the states. Otherwise, I'll come over and have some lunch over.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah,
we'll make it happen one of these days post pandemic.
Yeah, no, definitely. So let me ask you this. Let's talk about how you became opening your company, Independent Ear. Before that, though, were you working for corporate? How did you shift from that over to Independent Ear?
Well, it's weird because even when in the early days, in the previous chapters of Independent Ear, right? Because everything's different now.
Yeah.
Independent Ear was always a passion project, right? So I always obviously had to work to support the passion, right? Mm-hmm. Like most artists do. And that's what I did. I worked. I left the career in finance to start the music company, or to start towards the direction of the music company. And I always had other jobs. I always had other contracts. I was always doing other things because, number one, I'm not a singular faceted person. I don't like doing just one thing. Right? That's like when, for example, when I go run or go out and do a walk, I'm never just walking, right? Or never just running. So you add a little bit of extra challenge. You do a little bit more. Like after your first mile, you drop and do 10 push-ups, you get your ass back up, and you go another mile, you do 20, and then you go, you see what I mean? Like, always add a little bit more. So for me in business, that was always what it was. It was, I needed to work because I had a family. I had kids to support. I had a house to pay for. I had bills to cover. I had to work. And, so, I mean, I've done the odd jobs, and now like Independent Ear Music Group, which was the new, basically all new company, new contracts, new legal name, new artists, new business model. Everything started in 2020. So I did 8 years of practice, like 8 years of batting practice to now hit the majors, Wow. And this is when we took our first swing. And it's been great. But all of those lessons and everything that I've learned in the time to get me to where I am now have been pivotal. Because, I mean, I've got We the Collective, which is my media agency. We work with clients in kind of in a lot of different sectors, from fashion to cannabis to other entertainment companies, to even doing some coaching. So one-on-one brand development coaching, even into medical. I'm in the medical space too. So it's all what you want it to be. And number one, I'm a capitalist. I like money. I've learned to fall in love with money. Right? Because early on, I was told like money is the root of all evil, right? That money can't buy happiness. We all know that, but excuse me, early morning here,
Yeah.
But it's, and that money equaled greed, right? So instantaneously I had money attributed to negativity. So when I learned to love money, it started opening up a little bit more. It's great.
Yeah. I think it was Les Brown. He said, right. He said something about money, is as important as oxygen or something to that extent. He has different knowledges about money, right? And it comes down to the point that, is not the root of all evils. Actually, that's misquoted when people talk about that. They say, well, the Bible says that the money is the root of all evils. No, the love of money is the root of all evils, right? It's more what you can do. When you have the money, you can definitely do a lot more stuff. You can help more people. You can help yourself. I mean, there's so many different things you can do with that. So what are some of the biggest lessons, right? You've done door-to-door sales. I mean, to me, like looking at that, I'm in real estate, and even going through that, when you're doing like cold calling, or you're knocking on the door, so you're doing any of that stuff, you get a lot of those no. Like, I don't know how many times you get no's, right? And
learn to love the no.
Yeah, well, there you go, and that's what I want to know. Like, how do you fall in love with that? How do you say, you know what? Yes, I'm. That's part of my process, because many people sometimes in anything that they want to do, like they end up giving up because of that, right? That fear of that rejection or all those different things. So, what is one of the lessons when it comes down to you for you that you went through in terms of that?
I mean, I've been through a lot. I've done a lot of the jobs. I've done the fast food. I've done the, and when I say door-to-door sales, I'm not saying that I was like slinging direct TV. I was selling meat off the back of a truck.
Okay, even harder.
So biggest life lesson: shotgun gets pulled on you once, you're like, Shotgun gets pulled on you twice.
Oh.
Reevaluate your life choices.
Yeah.
That, needless to say, that job didn't last long.
Yeah.
But it is. Yeah, that was quite interesting. But for me, is everything has been a lesson. Everything has taught me something. Even in a shitty job, it's taught me something. Like I was working for this manufacturing company for several years, and I just saw all the insidious negative things that a company should never be about. Right? Dads hiring sons and paying them more and putting them in higher positions even though they didn't know what they were doing. Them not leveraging the creative strength of their unit, not caring about people. Like, all of those things are foundation in business. And I mean, then I got into the medical space a little bit, and I worked with a doctor back in 2019 for about 18 months. I was under contract with them. And I was doing media and marketing for them, and it was just terrible. Like, so environment and culture is everything. That's why when, especially like the music company, even with my clients, the agency, or the work that I'm doing in kind of like the educational sector with this university over in the Netherlands, everything is about where we are as humans first. So one of the things I've started doing, and I think it's helped me even, is whenever I start a conversation, whether it be with the artist, one of our partners, with a client, we spend the first couple minutes of every meeting going over our mental health, going over and seeing where our head and where our heart is, because if this isn't right and this isn't right, there's no amount of work that we discuss in that period of time that's going to be worth it or amount to anything. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. So what do you think are maybe some of the three biggest lessons you've learned between now and in the past?
Patience. Because it's going to take a lot longer than you expect it to. And it's going to take a lot longer than you want it to, right? Because want and expectation are two different things.
Right, there's different things. And you're right. When I think about that, again, it goes back to that where, like, well, I'm doing all this and I'm, and I don't see the results. I was listening to, or I was reading somebody's, one of my friends' post on Facebook. And one of the things that she talked about was, she's like, I feel like so many people are so much ahead of me and we started the journey around the same time.
Great.
Right. And so now this person is pretty much comparing, her growth with somebody else, which obviously she's losing the patience of, not seeing the results and kind of like beating herself over that. Right.
Right.
What do you think on that? I mean,
everybody's fallen for that. Everybody's done it. I mean, we're in the social media era, right? We're in the digital communication era.
Yeah.
Anything and everything can be seen literally by picking up a device like this, right? But for me, it's been not judging myself in what I know is my every normal day to day in comparison to what somebody else's media team or somebody else's, like, because comparison is death, right? Because how can you compare where you are in your life to where somebody else who's an entirely different being, who's experienced different things, who's gone through different shit, who is maybe on a different track, had more opportunities, less opportunity, any of that. Why would you want to compare yourself to that? Compare yourself to yourself. Because at the end of the day, like my buddy Todd Cahill says, it's you versus you. It's not you versus anybody else. It's you versus you. And that's it. Like, so for me, yeah, patience has been key. I like to say that I'm the most patient person on the planet when it comes to business, because I'll wait.
Got it.
I mean, but I'll be working. I'll
Right.
just wait because
Yeah.
all of the lessons and the time and everything that's accumulated have taught me, have given me confidence, have given me the ability to sit on shows like this and add value to people's life.
Right.
I mean, that's it for me is patience. I mean, I'm a little less patient with my kids than I probably should be, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Any other two, like any maybe one or two other lessons you've learned?
I mean, it's actually, yeah. Find happiness in every day in every way for you, right? It's whatever you need to do for you, right? Don't let your happiness be wrapped around other people's bullshit because it's your happiness, not theirs. And then you got to have fun, right? I mean, I know we all got to work, right? We all got to put in that blood, sweat, and tears level of effort, but we have to have fun. If we're not doing something that's fun, why are we even doing it? I was teaching a masterclass this past week, and with that university that I mentioned earlier, and I had asked them one question that they had to fill out in like the registration form. And that question was, what is the one thing that you would build if nothing stood in your way? And I got all sorts of answers. But then I'm sitting here talking to these small groups, 5 to 6, like 4 to 5 kids, right? Well, college students. And one of them put like this most ambiguous answer. And I'm going to push that people because like they need to be pushed, right? You need to be pushed to accomplish greatness. And they were like, when you're doing like these Zoom meetings and like you have multiple people in there, and your eyes are always drawn to one particular person, right?
Yeah.
Not because what they're saying is emphatic necessarily, not because what they're doing is like, oh my God, mind blowing. It's because you feel that what you're saying, they need to hear most. So this female student had put something to the effect of, it had to do with communications and the ability to bridge two types of people. But she was not confident in the answer. She was looking down. She was looking away. She wasn't providing anything supportive in that. And then something happened where she's like, I want to sing. I'm like, then you fucking sing. You change your course. Okay, cool. Music's your minor? Switch it. Well, that, I don't care. You shouldn't care what anybody else says. What do you want? Because at the end of the day, you're not living your parents' life. You're not living your grandparents' life. You're not living your teacher's life. You're not living that barista's life. You're not living anybody else's life but your own. So what do you want your story to be? And I'm like, I want to hear a record from you within the next 6 months. Yeah. And if I like it, my label will put it out. But I can't put it out unless you bring it to me. Yeah. And like, and then you saw her starting to open up, right? She was
her
like,
confidence came back, I'm sure.
Her shoulders pulled up. She sat up and was like, almost like she got closer to the computer, but really didn't. Yeah. And I'm like, that's the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's amazing. I love that. Now, you mentioned earlier something about mental health. Yep. And making sure that your mental, your heart, all of that is aligned in the right place. Right. What are some things that you tend to do to get on that positive mental health to make sure that you have the right type of programs to make sure that at the end of the day you really embody and focus and empower that mental health?
Honesty with yourself, right? So and here's an example. It's not, especially with COVID, right? It's not that we can avoid this, right? Because it's unavoidable now. It's back in March, we were planning our South by Southwest run for the label, right? We had 4 days of music and entertainment and speakers, like it was going to be a bash. And then the world came to a screeching halt. And then Trump said, national emergency. for something that, mind you, at this moment, still killed less people than depression and suicide does every year. Because mental illness is the true pandemic in the world. Because, and the sad part is all of it's preventable. All those 800,000 people that have taken their lives over the last 12 months and will, however many in the future, they're preventable. Anyways, I'll get on to the reaming of the healthcare system globally here in the next episode. But it's been for me when I had to cancel that event, I internally got very depressed. Like I knew it, but I allowed myself to feel it, knowing that you cannot cover up the emotion, you cannot run past the emotion, you cannot try to dodge it because it's like Final Destination. It will catch up to you, right? So giving yourself the ability to feel, but being aware enough to know, excuse me, but being aware enough to know that that's not your reality. That's just a temporary place, right? Like I'm feeling this way, but that doesn't mean I have to continue to feel that way. But it's understanding and loving yourself, right? Like I'm like, damn, I like sat in like very sadness for like 3 days, and then I'm like, you know what? Like that's not me. I'm not a sad person. I gotta like go get shit done. So we took the entirety of the event and we said, all right, well, we can't do it in person anymore. So what can we do? So we switched it all up and we did 4 days of live streams the following week.
Nice.
That were like basically all we did was we shifted our timeline back a day and did it online. Other than that, it was pretty much the exact same experience. I know because I was as exhausted as I would have been if I was running the show in person. But so point being is be understanding with yourself. So like the golden rule, right? Treat others how you want to be treated, but treat yourself how you want others to treat you, right? So if you're talking kindness, are you being kind to yourself? If you're talking love, are you loving yourself? Are you giving yourself space? Are you giving yourself brevity to feel what you need to feel, to go through what you need to go through in order to deal with it? And then when it comes to fear, especially right now, you have a lot of people running the other way, right? Cesar, how many times when in your day-to-day of your business or this podcast, are you experiencing people running the other way?
Oh yeah, a lot.
I choose to dive forward.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing that happens is you fall down, right? If you dive in, you get a scraped knee, a busted elbow, maybe a broken bone if you land hard enough, but you're still through it. Because what the people running away from it fail to realize is it's still going to catch them because it's going that way.
No, yeah. I definitely enjoy that. I can definitely see kind of like what you mentioned is being honest with yourself, and a lot of times in anything you're going, I think is because people are gonna go through that. I mean, I go through myself. Everybody goes through this, right? You have that down moment, and I think acknowledge that, and recognize it. Like you said, be yourself, be honest to yourself, know that feeling is there, and then I would say let it go. Like once you acknowledge that, take note of that, whatever that might be, and then say, this is, like you said, this is not me. I'm not a lazy person. I'm not that saddened person. I'm not whatever that might be, right? And move on. You've acknowledged it. You let it go. We're going forward. A lot of times you're carrying that guilt, or you're carrying that thought that makes it even worse, right?
Well, and understand that it's probably going to happen again.
Yeah.
Right. So if you hold on to all of those things as they happen, right? Imagine putting them in like a backpack. Right, you're trying to walk with that backpack, and every time you add a new one in, and you don't take it out, fucking thing gets heavy.
Yeah.
And right, which means you're moving slower. Your physiology slumps down, like all of it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, yeah, that I love that analogy. That actually makes perfect sense. So
That's
you
like
have
literally the first time I've said that analogy. So I'm really glad that it made sense.
it does. I mean, like, you're like, it's holding you back. Is you're carrying that weight on you? Like, let that stuff go, man. So it makes
Right.
sense. So you have this thing called my rule of four, right? Let's talk about that.
All right.
Tell me about the rule of four and what that means.
All right. So for me, I went and said a little bit of it already, but
Yeah, you did. You did.
no, number one is to find happiness, right? In every day and every way for you and only you, right? Because you are the only one that controls your happiness. No, nothing outside of you can control it, right?
Mm.
Number two is to have fun because, again, life's too short to not do shit that we love, right? To not have fun, to not laugh, to not chase that thing, to do that thing that you've always wanted to do. Like my business partner, John, was like, I'm going to like jump off a cliff. I'm like, just don't die. Right? Because what would, and then he's like, I met all these amazing people at the bottom. I'm like, awesome. I'm just glad you're not dead.
Yeah.
Right? Like, go do that thing, especially right now.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, cool. Like we can't, and that was the big thing for me. Like, right. Like with all this COVID stuff, they're like, a friend of mine asked me, they're like, what do you do to decompress? I'm like, oh, well, I would go and get coffee. Shit, can't do that. I would go get my hair cut. Fuck, can't do that. I do that. So like the having fun had to change a little bit, right? So now I do podcasts. I'm on more podcasts now. I'm connecting with more people. I'm opening up my space in order to like allow people digitally in. And goddamn, I love the work that I do, all of it. And it's a lot, but I love it. So make sure that you have fun with it. And if it's like the yes, no equation, right? Like, are you having fun? Yes. Keep doing it. Are you having fun? No.
Change it.
Fix it. Mm-hmm. And then ask yourself the same thing, because why would you lead a life that does not have fun in it? Like, I'm going to go chase my kids after this probably because that's fun. I'm going to torture them because that's fun. Torture them in a good way, not like a way. You know, like,
you gotta get a couple of calls like Cesar, Ryan.
We can't have that. Like we need to know his exact address.
Yeah.
And then 3 is work, right? Because anything and everything worth it in life takes like blood, sweat, and tears level of effort to achieve. And then along the way, and this is out of the 4, this is probably the most important. Make sure that you give yourself room to breathe, right? Because especially as entrepreneurs, us creatives, us musicians, us artists, us people who are building, or hell, even those same people that go to a 9-to-5, even though that 9-to-5 is their kitchen table, or that momentary run to the laptop or the iPad in the bathroom because your 9-year-old and your 11-year-old and your 4-month-old are going, right?
Yeah.
Find a way to say to breathe every day. Number 1, it helps you see how far you've come because you have the ability to and see where you that's been huge for me. Yeah. And 2, like you just need to, oxygen's good. We need it.
Yeah.
So, and even if you just say the word breathe, it does that really cool thing where you actually breathe when you say it.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely in the unconscious level, like, okay, let me just take the time to feel it. Yeah, I can see that.
Right.
Yeah.
So like I have an alarm on my phone at 2:22 every day that goes off and reminds me to breathe.
Oh, nice.
And I'll wherever I am in the world, I don't care where I am, I'll sit down for a minute and just go. I don't care how ridiculous it looks.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing it for me and nobody else.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say that. Like, at the end of the day, it's all about you, right? So it makes perfect sense. So, right, I have a couple more questions before I let you go.
Absolutely.
The first one is, if people wanted to find out on how they can connect with you or maybe know more about your company, where can they find you? And what do you, how can people work with you?
Sure. I'm everywhere. So, I mean, I'm not a hard person to find. Just Google Phillip Ryan Block. And thanks to my media people, they're helping me like increase
all over the place.
But anyways, Instagram is probably my biggest platform. So that's at Phillip Ryan Block with 2 L's in Phillip. Instagram, business side, LinkedIn, again, just all Phillip Ryan Block. Facebook, I'm not really on Facebook a lot. But really the best way to get in touch with me is either to either text me or email me. This is why I like my cell phone number that rings this phone, is in all my social profiles. Gotcha. So I challenge people,
Yeah.
Because they're like, no way, that's not your phone.
Try me.
I'm like, yeah, it is. Like an assistant doesn't answer it. Somebody in like India is not forwarding the call to it's me.
Yeah.
So I implore people to do that. Every on my social media, I talk about this thing that I do most days during the week, called the Mental Health Open Call, where it's much like this. It's a Zoom room that's not recorded. That's not for anything else other than for people to get stuff off their chest. And it's a like-minded, safe space for people. And so all of that's in my social media. As far as the music company, you can go to independentear.com. For the agency We The Collective, you can just go to wethecollective.co. Although admittedly, I will say our Instagram for the agency is not all that impressive right now, only because personal brand has leveraged a lot of the growth of the agency. So, and then my podcast, The Open Heart Collective, is available on my YouTube channel as well as my Facebook page, because it's a live video audio podcast. And then it's available on audio form, like everywhere, Spotify, Apple, Google, all those places. So yeah, I'm pretty easily accessible if people are willing to look.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And sometimes that's like anything in life. You just need to take the time and just do it. And just, you want to find somebody, you want to do something, just get it done. Right. And take that action. So, now, in terms of daily habits, do you have any daily habits, any daily rituals that you do every day that will be good to share?
I mean, I stretch. I don't do it for like a lot of what some of these like yoga people do, where they're like doing it for like an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say that I don't have time for that, but I've not allocated that time in my calendar. Every morning I have this book, The Daily Stoic. So every day it's got a meditation. It's got a kind of a statement and a reflection piece in it. So I read that, and So for instance, today it's May 23rd. Yeah.
Yep.
So May 23rd, the statement, the headline for this page is "Show me how to live." Right. And then there's a quote from Seneca, where it says, "Show me that good life doesn't consist in its length, but in its use, and that it is possible, no entirely too common, for a person who has a long life to have lived too little." So like even statements like that,
right?
I mean, those reinforce things.
Definitely.
But like the day-to-day thing is not all that glamorous. I don't have a big thing. I don't spend 30 minutes journaling. I do my ritual is that I give myself space for whatever I need.
Yeah. And that's huge. And also the breathing, you do that every day, right? So all of that, I mean, those things are huge. I think that definitely it comes down to like do something, like have some sort of ritual. It doesn't have to be nothing major. It could be something small that puts you in a different state of mind every day, right? I think that's critical. And when you do that, so like even reading that, that book every day, it's just putting something in the back of your mind that, okay, is reinforcing the things that I'm doing. So that's awesome. And then the last thing I have for you is you've given us a lot of great tips. So if there was another tip that you can give our listeners or viewers in terms of what is one thing they can do if they're going through some sort of challenge right now, whatever that challenge might be, that they can start doing to start overcoming that challenge.
Be honest with yourself. And then through that honesty, know that that challenge that you're facing will pass. But it may seem insurmountable, right? It might seem like you're at the bottom of Everest staring up and you can't even see the top of it, meaning like you don't know how long it's going to take. But be kind to yourself. Know that if you are focused, if you are acting deliberately and making the necessary steps for you and only you, that you'll get through it. You'll climb the mountain, right? And then you'll be able to slide down the other side. Maybe it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think be kind to yourself, especially right now, is a message that people need to know.
Yeah.
That it's okay that it's taking longer than you want it to, because who are you answering to? Right? Especially right now. Definitely not answering to the government.
Right.
Definitely not answering to a boss, because everybody's on the same playing field.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about the great equalizer? This has been the great equalizer.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely is. Yeah, no, I see it. No, that's awesome. Anything else before I let you go that you might want to share?
Yep. So I listen to this little podcast music mix on Spotify every day called Daily Wellness. And there's one thing that in one of the meditations that they have in there, or at least they have in there for me every day, because it's curated to you. But there's this podcast called The Daily Shine. And one of the things that they do, because it's a little bit of talk or guided meditation, one of the things that I've started doing because of that is I give myself a hug every day. Right? Like, because that feeling when you just go like, and you just let it be.
Yep.
Is like, even if you feel like everything is against you, know that you got your own back. Right?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. That like when they said that, I'm like, that's going to be fucking weird.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, holy shit, this feels amazing.
Yeah.
But again, that's self-love. That's self-care. So, yeah.
That's awesome. I forget who it is. I'm trying to look him up right now. I think the last name is McLean. Anyways, I've seen him speak at multiple events. And I forget his name first name now. But anyways, one of the things that he talks about is kind of like the same thing you're talking about, right? When you do something great, when you accomplish an aha moment or a huge win, whatever that might be, right? Just give yourself a pat on the back and say, good job, Cesar. Okay? And I started doing that. And again, it's kind of freaking weird. Like doing this in front of the public. And I've inducted that now, because I think, again, like I'm waiting for somebody to like pat me in the back, like, man, use your own hand and do it yourself and be good about it. And so anyways, it is freaking weird, yet like the hug. And I'm going to start using that now. It works, right? It validates, it reinforces the stuff that you just accomplished or whatever you're doing. And it really puts your mind, going back to the mental health and the mental mind in a different aspect, And so anyways, that's another one that I do and I definitely enjoy it.
Awesome.
So anyways, Ryan, thank you so much for being here and sharing a lot of great things today. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Cesar, for having me. I really, I know us podcast hosts don't always get the credit that we deserve, but you're doing great work, man. And it's every time I get to sit down and have a conversation like this with another human being that I didn't know before today, I consider to be a high honor. And keep up the great work, brother. And we'll have to work on getting you on my show, because I want to.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely need to do that for sure. So yeah, no, thank you so much. And for the rest of you guys, do me a favor. Please make sure you share, comment, like. We are in all different platforms, and you can listen to us in any platform pretty much. Check us up on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all over the place. Please make sure you share this. Please make sure you come down here and put some comments. Subscribe to the channel. Looking forward to seeing you at the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Bye.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.